Welcome to qnawire.
All right, we are going to find the first and second derivatives of this problem. And this is a composite function that has three layers. So the very inside layer is 3 theta, the middle layer is the sine function, and the outermost layer is the cosine function. So we'll be using the chain rule extended. So let's start by finding y prime, the first derivative. So the derivative of the outside would be the derivative of cosine, and that is negative sine. So we have negative sine of 3 theta. Now we take the derivative of the next layer, and the next layer, remember, was sine, and the derivative of sine is cosine, so we have the cosine of 3 theta. Now we take the derivative of the next layer, and the next layer is 3 theta, and its derivative is 3. Okay, we can clean this up a little bit. We have y prime equals negative 3 times the sine of 3 theta times a cosine of 3 theta. We could have this part after the cosine part. It doesn't really matter. So that's the first derivative. Now let's find the second derivative. So we're taking the derivative of the derivative, and what we have here is a product. So we're going to need to use the product rule, and then inside the product rule, we're going to have the chain rule. And I'm going to tack on the negative 3 as part of the first term. So here we have the first term in the product, and here we have the second term in the product. Okay, so the first times the derivative of the second plus the second times the derivative of the first. That would be the product rule. So the first would be negative 3 sine of 3 theta times the derivative of the second. Derivative of cosine is negative sine, so times negative sine of 3 theta times the derivative of the inside, 3. So that's the first times the derivative of the second, plus the second, cosine of 3 theta, times the derivative of the first. Okay, so now we're doing the derivative of this whole thing, and we're going to use the chain rule. And again, it's a triple layer chain. So we have the negative 3 times the derivative of cosine of 3 theta, times the derivative of the next layer. The next layer would be the inner sine, and its derivative would be cosine, so cosine of 3 theta, times the derivative of the next layer, and that would be 3 theta, and its derivative is 3. Okay, so we have the first times the derivative of the second plus the second times the derivative of the first. Now let's see what we can do to simplify it. So looking at our first term, we have a negative 3 and a negative and a 3. We can multiply all those together, and we have 9. So we have 9 sine of 3 theta times the sine of 3 theta. Now for the other part, we have a negative 3 and we have a 3, so that will be minus 9. So we have minus 9, and we have cosine of 3 theta and another cosine of 3 theta, so we could write that as cosine squared of 3 theta times the remaining part is cosine of sine 3 theta. We can see just how much more complicated it gets when we take a second derivative.